What's up, everyone? Mr. YouTube Gamer. Today we're playing Star Wars Battlefront 1 in 2022. We're going to see how the game holds up 7 years later. So yes, that means we're talking about the EA Battlefront 1, not the original from 2004, which is actually the first FPS game that I ever played. One of the best games of all time. I'm definitely going to cover the original Battlefront 1 and see how that game plays in 2022. But for now, we're going to focus on the rebooted Battlefront, a game that I remember back in the day a lot of people did not like. It was a very polarizing game. People felt like it was not a true Battlefront game. Of course, there are a lot of comparisons between the EA Battlefront and the original Battlefront, and they really are two different games. There really aren't that many similarities between them except their large-scale battles in the Star Wars universe. That's really the only similarity, but the core gameplay, the map design, everything is so fundamentally different when you compare the new Battlefront to the old Battlefront. That's just how reboots go, though. It's nothing new to the Battlefront series. Whenever a series gets rebooted, there are a lot of things that are different. For me, it wasn't the gameplay that bothered me or the maps. I thought all that was fine. I think the game definitely could have used a little bit more content than it actually got. I mean, there was DLC, but that was the only expansion content that we got. And at the end of the day, it didn't really feel like a complete game, at least to me. I really felt like there could have been a lot more polish. There could have been a lot more content into Battlefront 1, especially with the factions. You only had one era of Star Wars, the original trilogy, which I remember being pissed off when I found that out because I was a huge fan of the Clone Wars. That's the era of Star Wars that I grew up with, and being told that I can't play as the clones or the droids really made me upset. And that was actually a big reason why I decided not to buy the game originally in 2015 when it released. I bought it about a year and a half later, like right before Battlefront 2 came out, so like mid-2017. I remember on PS4 the game was on sale. It was the original game plus the season pass, so all the DLC, the entire experience for just $10. I'm like, oh shit, that's a pretty good deal. So I finally decided to get the game, and I was actually pleasantly surprised by how well polished it was and how much of a good game it actually was. And I ended up putting a lot of hours into Battlefront 1 and enjoying the time that I had with it. And I even kept playing Battlefront 1 after Battlefront 2 came out because you guys remember the whole microtransaction controversy and all that bullshit that was going on. So I decided not to buy Battlefront 2 and stick with Battlefront 1 for a while, and kept enjoying the game for a little bit longer. But I would say I kind of haven't really been playing the game too regularly since mid-2018 when I decided to finally start playing Battlefront 2, which I do prefer Battlefront 2 over Battlefront 1, but at the same time, Battlefront 1 does have a unique experience compared to Battlefront 2 that if you only played Battlefront 2 and never played Battlefront 1, it actually might still be worth your time in 2022, and you might actually want to give it a chance. One thing is that the player base is still very, very strong after 7 years. I get full lobbies every single time I try to play, almost any time of the day. Full lobbies, 40-player servers on Xbox One, and the PS4 as well. PC is kind of a different story, though, because the PC community is practically dead in 2022. You will have a very hard time finding any servers of Battlefront 1 in 2022 on PC. Just the community is not nearly as strong as it is on console. You'd be lucky to find a server that's a quarter full, and without hackers, because I don't even have any hackers on console. On the Xbox One, I haven't run into a single hacker my entire time playing. So the state of the game overall, like the online community and just the playability of the game, is very, very good in 2022. Unless you're a PC gamer, then don't even bother. And also, your mileage may vary depending on which region in the world that you live in. If you live in Europe, if you live in North America, you're good, but if you live in Australia, South America, or one of those other regions, Asia, then you're probably not going to have the same experience that I do when it comes to having such an easy time finding players. But that's pretty much with every online game, so keep that in mind, you know, if you live somewhere else in the world. As far as how the actual gameplay itself holds up after 7 years, I would say it holds up pretty well. The graphics, I think, are still nice, at least for a 2015 game. You know, obviously it's not going to look as pretty as newer games, but I think it still looks pretty nice. The gunplay is still very solid and feels like a modern FPS. I mean, it's been 7 years, which is a pretty long time, but not long enough for this game to really be too outdated. I'd say at least compared to Battlefront 2, it's about the same. The gunplay is very similar. There are a few differences with how the weapons feel and how they're handled, but if you have played Battlefront 2 before, you will feel very much at home with Battlefront 1 and will get used to the gameplay very quickly. I would say the big difference between Battlefront 1 and Battlefront 2 mostly lies with the meta. and how the overall balancing is handled. I would say overall, being someone that spent a lot of time playing both games, I can say with total confidence that Battlefront 1 has much better balancing than Battlefront 2, especially if you're someone that's not really too crazy about the whole hero system and playing as a hero with Jedi or whatever. Like, if you just like playing as a regular soldier, Battlefront 1 will be a much better experience for you, absolutely, because you don't have as many heroes on the field. You only have 2 of them on the field at any given time, 1 for each team. But with Battlefront 2, there are a lot more than that on the field at the same time. Sometimes you could have 5, 6, 7, 8 of them, not even including the special soldier classes like the Droideka, the ARC Trooper, and all those other special classes that you have to use the same point system that you do to unlock the heroes in Battlefront 2. You also have all these special classes that you can also use. So it's a little bit of, it's just all over the place for BF2. So I like Battlefront 1's balancing a lot better, actually. You don't have to worry about having all these heroes on at the same time and all these special classes and being outgunned all the time because you're going up against someone with a more powerful class than you do. I mean, happens every once in a while, especially, Darth Vader coming in or Luke Skywalker, but it's such a rare thing compared to Battlefront 2, and you also don't have as many vehicles, so yeah, it's definitely a much more even playing field if you're playing Battlefront 1 than if you're playing Battlefront 2 online. But that all comes down to personal preference. If you love playing as a Jedi with a lightsaber and don't really care much for playing as a regular soldier and you just want to go all crazy, then Battlefront 2 will be your preferred game. But if you like a more balanced FPS experience or third-person shooter, because you could also play the game in third person, then Battlefront 1 might be the better option for you in 2022. Though, I will give a warning for Battlefront 2 players that are trying to get into Battlefront 1. You're going to get bored a lot quicker because there is a lot less content in the first Battlefront game. There are less maps, there are much less game modes, and it's just, there is a lot less stuff to do in the game that you'll get bored rather quickly. That's like pretty much the only big downside I can say for Battlefront 1, especially if you don't have the DLC. But even if you do, nobody plays the DLC anymore in 2022. And most of the DLC content, like Scarif and all that DLC, Cloud City, it's free content in Battlefront 2, so you're not really missing out on anything anyway. But overall, I would say that Battlefront 1 is still a good game to play in 2022. Especially if you have Xbox Game Pass Ultimate or EA Play, then you don't have to pay any more money than you're already paying because it's part of your subscription, so you can just start playing right now if you want to. Like Battlefront 2, you will very often be outmatched by someone that has better power-ups than you do and better weapons because they've been playing longer, so they have a higher level than you do. And progression does take a while, so that's one thing you have to keep in mind if you're a new player and don't have any progression or rank in the game. You're gonna have a bit of a rough start, but it will get better, and I think you will enjoy the game a lot. So that's Battlefront 1 in 2022. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Do you still play Battlefront 1? And how do you think it compares to Battlefront 2? Let me know in the comments down below. As always, thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace.